That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Jimmy Doan Show. We are here live once again for the 1 billionth time in a row. Basically. Actually, you know what, Jimmy, I found a recording from us from September of 1998.
Okay.
So 21 years.
Really?
The Jimmy Doan Show has been in some form or another.
In some form, yeah.
That's right.
98.
Yep.
Wow.
How about that? That may have been the first one. That was over on the Love channel or whatever it was.
Oh, yeah, okay. I have all those.
Yeah, I know. Just
that
happened
was,
to find
was
one.
that 98? That sounds about right.
That's what it said.
Yeah, it was. That's right.
So
We were live then.
Yeah. As we are now. As we are every Wednesday and Sunday at 4 o'clock. For your listening pleasure, we're right here on this Facebook channel. Also, I'll post a copy up on YouTube in a little bit with all of the subjects time-stamped for your easy perusal. And we're also available in audio format on iTunes and other places that you might look for and find podcasts. Find us everywhere. So, join us if you can. Today is the 19th of May, 2019, 5/19/19. So, what's happening?
What's happening?
I know we've got stuff today to talk about.
We got a couple of things. Be kind
Go
of
ahead.
interesting. First thing, of course, we need to talk about Trump a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
He declares some auto imports pose a national security threat. And so from a proclamation released Friday, Trump agreed with a Commerce Department study that found some imported cars and trucks are, quote, weakening our internal economy, unquote, and threaten to harm national security, but it stopped short of naming specific vehicles or parts. Well, of course, almost everything is a national security threat, and I don't see that. Of course, I don't see this as this is another of the fear tactics. Every time you talk about national security, I hardly think this rises to the level of national security. But
Did it say how much value and product it was?
they haven't gotten to that yet.
Okay.
In other words, he put this out saying
Oh my God!
Yeah, oh my God, yeah, we have a national security threat. We need to look into this.
The blob is coming.
That's right. So we think. The next item we have here: climate change climbs.
Aha! Climate.
Climate change. That's right.
Fire up the transporter.
Fire up the transporter.
That's right. So
Okay, sunshiny, and not for you. Okay, that's right.
see, there's our little
Climate change climbs up U.S. voters' lists of concerns. Mm-hmm. Now, how do you suppose that would happen, and who do you suppose it's aimed to?
Clearly this is an independent, objective poll.
No question about it. That's right. Nobody has any skin in this game.
Right.
No, it's rising up in the voter concerns in the United States with nearly 40% saying the issue will be crucial as to how they cast their ballots in the 2020 presidential race. The results of the poll show Democratic candidates in particular are under pressure to offer solutions to climate change, which figures. I mean, Trump's going to win by himself, basically, and so they got 21 or however many people they've got running, and of course they all have to address some way of climate change, I suppose, and at least one of them, the guy from Washington State, I think, is exclusively on that.
Well, it's like you said, this is one of those, this is a non-provable issue from their perspective.
It goes
unlimited spending potential.
This is the beauty of it.
In all kinds of areas.
No accountability, but unlimited spending. I mean, it doesn't get any better. This is like having a credit card at Christmas time with no limit.
Yeah.
And it's the results of so it comes at a time change is in making headlines in the United States and abroad, with school strikes on Fridays now. Apparently there are a bunch of schools that kids just walk out, that they're worried about their climate. And then, I suppose there's what they should be
There's no
worried.
better way to make your point than to deny yourself an education.
Well, of course, walking out of those, if there's public schools, I mean, that's hardly an education, number one.
Still, just the logic of it.
Well, the logic of it. But the other thing is what they ought to be worried about is the fact that there's going to be no money for them. I mean, the fact is that the economy, by that time they get into the, quote, job market, the Federal Reserve will, inflation will be go through the ceiling and all that kind of stuff.
Blah, 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 blah.
That's right, exactly right. And of course, this is, as you just said, I have a little quote here, what a great task for the government. There's no way to verify that reducing carbon will improve the climate, so it's a perfect political cause. You can spend trillions of taxpayer dollars with no accountability.
Here's the thing, though. The problem with that is it's solved. It's over.
Yeah.
It's done. All you have to know is nuclear.
Right.
And look, nuclear, and the great thing about it, I'm ripping off Scott Adams here. This podcast brought to you by Scott Adams.
Right.
is either way, nuclear is the way to go. We should have gone nuclear 40 years ago.
Some places actually did. I mean, I think France
did. Yeah, they got 80%, and Germany was on their way, and then some green people got in there and reversed it, and they ended up paying big time. And you just can't beat it in terms of an energy source, especially for square foot per watt,
right?
Which is a very important metric in the modern world.
You mean you're not gonna carpet all of Arizona with solar cells?
Right, exactly, or watt per square foot, I should say, the other way around, obviously. But then, of course, and I'm going to say it again, 30 years fusion power. And then we're off the charts. It's everything changes. Certainly before the end of the century. And let me just point out, people are still posting these crazy alarmist level interpretations of the change of climate. Everybody knows it's changing, but I see people talking about 10 feet of sea level rise,
right. I saw that.
Which is insanity relative to even NASA. Even if you think NASA, whatever you think about NASA, they have sea level rise at 3.3 millimeters per year. Even extrapolate that out over 80 years, it's less than a foot. Even if you continue their rate of increase rise, it goes to 2 feet, not 10 feet. And that's totally on par with the last 10,000 years of sea level rise, with the exception of the great meltwater pulses. The truth is, 10,000, 12,000 years ago, there were 2 gigantic sea level rises.
Really?
And there's there's a lot of speculation that there was an asteroid impact or a volcanic eruption, the exact nature or location of which we haven't found yet or specified, and it caused a gigantic heating or just a change in everything that melted a lot of ice and created a lot of water.
It would have to have melted land ice, of course. Sea ice, you melt that, doesn't matter.
Right. Well, and there's even an offset with the land ice too, because a lot of land is floating as well.
Right. Well, not only that. When as we've seen, when the ice, when you've got several tons per square inch of ice on the land, when it melts, the land rises.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Right.
But
I'm not worried.
Yeah. Well,
these guys, and to think that somebody's going to select a president on this?
Well, I don't think so, because I think once the debates come out and somebody from the audience yells nuclear, nuclear, you idiot, or whatever. You just want somebody to have that out there and then have them go, Murr. And you see right now there's still the cognitive dissonance where if you say nuclear to somebody who is not thinking nuclear, they
Chernobyl.
Well, that's number one.
Yeah.
Or 3 Mile Island,
3 Mile Island.
whatever. Okay.
Of course, nobody died.
Right. Nobody died at 3 Mile Island. And Chernobyl was a total freak accident. And Fukushima was a tidal wave. Let's face it. Nobody was getting out alive anyway.
Right.
So, from the whole area.
That'll teach you to build something on a.
Well, the whole damn Tokyo is built on 3 fault lines.
Right.
It's like they couldn't have picked a worse spot. How about that volcano?
Yeah, right.
Still, either way, nuclear is still the best way to go times a million, and it'll be just so obvious from all the arguments from all sides. It'll be undeniable. I think we'll just sort of go in that direction. I don't know what the argument is against it. Something about unsustainability, maybe something about, I guess, like you said, accidents, which...
that's the big fear, of course. They're always talking about, especially if you go to fusion, you got a hydrogen bomb in there.
That's right. And the whole Earth turns into a sun.
That's right.
No, look, I think that the way to frame the argument, exactly what Scott Adams said, which is, look, you ask them, what's more dangerous, nuclear or climate change?
Right.
So if you're really worried about that climate change, then you're willing to take a few meltdowns for the trade, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So
hooray!
Take one for the team.
Hoorah!
Right. No, and of course we're not expecting meltdowns and stuff. So I'm expecting this to be a non-issue
Okay,
Well,
that'll be interesting to see because
Well,
just
I
what they do.
shouldn't say
When
that,
you
though.
when you see the stuff, I've got to get into it a little later here.
Yeah.
When you see the stuff that is that they claim to be issues,
Right.
that various people running. I mean, I'm sitting there thinking, what are you talking about? And this comes into one of these things right now. The House passed a sweeping LGBTQ XYZ bill, non-discrimination bill, and a historic vote.
You sound like you're mocking it when you say that.
I totally am. Of course, the Equality Act would modify existing civil rights legislation to add protections against discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. And I thought we already had some of that. Isn't there something? I don't think you can fire somebody for being gay, can you?
Yeah, I'm almost positive that that's all in Title 7 or 9.
Title 9.
And the concept is, I'm with you. I think everybody's protected. I think what they're trying to do is just sort of further delineate.
Well, that's what they're doing. I mean, they're strengthening it.
Right.
And
so that someone,
as one of the guys says here, for far too long, our government has failed to provide our LGBTQT, whatever, constituents with the civil rights and federal protections they need and deserve. But now, with the passage of this historic legislation, we can finally help our communities heal from the wounds inflicted by those who turned a blind eye to their oppression. And I wonder, of course, how the law, yeah, right, well, that's me, all right, yeah. So Republicans who opposed the bill said it would jeopardize religious freedom by requiring acceptance of a particular ideology about sexuality and sexual identity. And of course, one guy says the act would create a brave new world of discrimination based on undefined terms of sexual orientation and gender identity. But what I'm wondering is, the fact that you need a law for this, it seems to me rather specious.
Yeah, it seems almost as if they're going to make some people more equal
than
others.
The suits will be coming, you're going to have gender identity lawyers.
Nobody cares about at this point. I don't think, even, where was I? Oh, I was telling you the story about the bathrooms the other day.
Yeah.
And at the concert, where all the girls were in the guy's bathroom.
Right.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Come on in, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you or a girl, I think there's a security issue, that you'd want to. Look, with a little.
Well, girls always go together.
Right.
I mean, that's a given.
Yeah.
You never sit at a table and have one girl get up and say, I'm going to the ladies' room, without the others immediately get up with them. The guys never, you sit there. If I were to get up and a guy next to me says, well, hey, I'll go with you. I'm going, no.
Well,
it's a thing.
I don't think this is a bad issue. Also, this is in the House. I don't know if it's going to pass the Senate. I don't know if it's going to be signed into law. This is. It seems like a symbolic gesture.
Yes, it does. I mean, but this is what they do. I mean, this is what they do for their $175,000 a year. Is this kind of stuff.
Symbolism.
Yeah, right. NASA. Yep. Roscosmos leadership unite in a call for asteroid defense, a game changer. Thank you so much. Yeah, and a game changer in. So what they're doing is now they've decided to set up a whole new group of people, and what they're going to do is to see if they can spot an asteroid far into the future that's going to crash into the Earth and wipe us all out.
Right.
So what they've done is, in late April and early May, a unique 5-day conference took place, bringing together scientists, engineers, and policymakers, lawyers, to discuss important matter, mankind's long-term survival in a very hostile part of the galaxy, as if, yeah, right. I mean, the only thing that can survive out there is what those Budapeds, or what are they called, the little
tardigrades.
Tardigrades, yeah, right. This is the 5th annual Planetary Defense Conference in Baltimore, of all places. And it opened by a powerful keynote address by NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstone, who painted a picture of the very real threat which life on Earth faces due to highly volatile and completely unknown behavior of asteroids near Earth objects, but also outlined an important pathway to peace. And of course, this reminds me a little bit of one of the greatest movies I've ever seen, if you can ever find it, and that is come on, George.
There you go. No. Swing and a miss.
Swing and a miss. No, it's the one about the guy who could see the future, or could change the future by dreaming about it.
Yeah. No, I didn't see that one. That was Denzel Washington.
No. This was on PBS.
Oh, okay.
And it was. Oh,
you mean Lathe of Heaven?
Lathe of Heaven.
Oh, okay.
Lathe of Heaven.
What?
Book by Ursula K. Le Guin, whatever. But it was made into a movie on PBS, the best one.
Right.
They made a remake of it. It was terrible.
Right.
But what happened was he dreamt about uniting. One of the things he dreamt about was uniting the planet. And of course, what immediately happened is aliens invaded. And the planet united to fight off the aliens. So
you just want to talk about that. That's not related to this story.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
How?
Because he's talking about an important pathway to peace, and that's what he's saying. Is this is a uniting thing? If you're all worried about an asteroid, then the whole Earth is worried about
I'm going to speak on the other side for this. Okay. Yeah. Because here's a couple things. Number one, he has no. It's not like he has any authority or anything. So he's going to go around and ask a bunch of scientists to collaborate on this particular effort. And to the extent that he brings people together, even in the scientific community, it does open up connections and pathways between countries which form permanent or better bonds and all kinds of stuff. That's definitely the way to go in terms of a scientific endeavor. You take the best scientists from whatever areas you can get them. And this particular effort is actually a pretty decent one from the standpoint of this is an issue let me say two things. Number one, statistically speaking, as we've talked about, we're not going to get hit by anything that big anytime.
They're talking about the one that's going to come a little closer than the moon but misses in 2029.
Right. Well, they're talking about ones we can't see, which are real possibilities.
Yeah.
The thing is that, and we're right at the technological level where one could be large enough to do us some real damage and still too small to see. But that gap is actually what they'd be working on, is closing that gap, getting it so that we could see all the ones that would be of any potential harm to us as they got close to the Earth. And it's something that we really do want to be aware of and alert of at some point.
I see your point. And of course, one of the things is interesting is how big was that one that just went over Russia and blew up in the...
Okay, so I misquoted it last time. I reversed that with the Tunguska one in terms of force and such.
Right.
But
that one was not Tunguska.
Huh?
That one was not as big as Kangusta or whatever it was.
Now I'm going to mess it up again.
No, the one in Siberia was the Tunguska one or whatever you call it.
Right.
Okay? And that blew all the trees down for 100 miles. Okay. The other one, though, that was over that they caught on the auto cameras, everybody's camera, it blew up in the atmosphere.
Right.
And I think they figured it was about as big as a trailer, a mobile home.
Right. Well, I said it was about as big as a bus or something about that.
Bus, mobile home,
right. In terms of megatonnage, it was a very powerful thing. I think I'm going to go with 30 megatons. I mean, somewhere between 10 and 30, not kilotons. It's this
megatons, right?
Yeah, and but I may be reversing that one with Tunguska again. But either way, that one exploded very high in the atmosphere.
Right.
And so that's why it didn't blow everything to smithereens. If
no radiation either.
Well, right. But if it had just gotten a few, another mile or two lower or something, it would have done some real damage.
Right.
But the thing is, they have to be bigger in order to get.
Right. No. Here's the point being that you don't have to. At what point? At what size do they burn up in the atmosphere? Totally, and that's like we see, about as big as a bus, or so anything smaller than that, you're not worried about it.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Exactly.
So you're looking for stuff bus size or bigger.
Right. And so you can see that pretty well you can see that if you get a glint off of the sun, some kind of reflection or something, if it's got a little ice on it or something. But the problem is most of these objects are very dark, they're iron, and some of them, they can be traveling, obviously most of them are traveling at 10 to 30,000 miles an hour.
Right.
And then occasionally, occasionally we get some extra solar debris which comes in at a weird angle, and then it can be traveling at 2 or 3 times that.
Okay.
And then the kinetic energy is ridiculous,
right.
And there's nothing much we can do about that. But what we'd be looking for is to create a sphere of knowledge that surrounds the Earth, which gives us enough time to launch some countermeasures. And we'd have to have something quite large, like an entire astronomical unit,
How about a disruptor ray?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, quite large in terms of the sphere. Yeah, disruptor ray. Well, yeah, we want some laser or something. Anything, if you could.
The photon gun. Boom.
Anything. But I don't know. I mean, that would be ideal. But we don't have anything right now except for rockets. So we're really still. We easily could find ourselves today in a situation like they did in those two movies. Whereas tomorrow, some kid goes, "Oh shit." The thing is on its way.
Yeah.
You've got 6 months, and there'd be nothing we could do about it. So, this guy, I'm not saying I would put any money towards it, and I'm not saying that I would.
That's the key. I mean, but
authorize any government.
Think about
to
the guy
force
that's
people
working on this. I mean,
right.
He goes, "What'd you do today, honey?" Well, we examined some more ideas about asteroids hitting.
Well, sure. What they have to do is refine the telescope technique a little bit to specifically target those objects, which we have some, I'm sure, that are specifically designed for that. And you replicate those, you get the costs paid for by the various contributing countries, and then you put up a net, a sort of system of outlooking telescopic specific.
That's your idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
but I'm not saying we should tax people to do that.
No. Well, I'm with that. It's, after announcing the launch of the double asteroid redirection test, aka DART. We know for a fact that the dinosaurs did not have a space program, but we do, and we need to use it. So that's what they're talking about, is piggybacking on to find the. I personally is one of those things that I'd be much more worried about the sun, because I was just on YouTube. I was watching a thing on solar flares, and apparently there was one in the 1850s that practically melted the telegraph wires because they all got electrified and everything. And then there was another one in the 1970s that took out a bunch of satellites. And of course, when you think about it, these flares actually, I mean, the sun is flaring all the time anyway, but 99.999% of the time it's not towards Earth. It's
right.
some other direction. So, but
you get one directly
when you do get a direct one, and they showed, and they had a giant computer or whatever that showed how it would work and everything. And my guess would be, long before any asteroid shows up here, that our way of life could be seriously gone away with by one of those a solar flare that would take out most of the satellites, and as it did before, come down on Earth. Now they're trying to shield the satellites these days. In fact, what they do, I didn't realize this, but what they do now is when they think a solar flare is coming, they turn the satellites around, or they do
put
some
the
things.
sensitive equipment on the other side,
exactly,
stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And our hanger dog experts, hey Gene, had told us before about the various powers involved, and what we're worried about is an X level or something beyond that, which even when you hear about them being frightened in the news, it's like an F level event. It's way different in terms of the radiation that's out there. But I'm with you, that could easily happen. Also, combine that with the variability in the magnetic field that we've seen recently.
Right.
That pole is hauling butt for some reason.
Yeah.
And there's some, you could easily get that. There is at least one extinction level event in the geological record which they attribute to some sort of radioactive phenomenon. That is, they don't know whether or not there was a nearby star that exploded and there was a giant gamma burst, or it could have been something like a flare. We've only been studying the sun for 500 years.
Right.
So the sun, I mean, you think about that storm on Jupiter is how many hundreds of years old? At least 500 years old. So you could have a storm that's been on the sun that we just don't know about, that's been going on for thousands of years, and or and that could change any day. The storm could be over, or it could double, or something, and could have a serious impact. But other than the events that you talked about, there haven't been a lot of times in history. It's not like somebody's come across a big field of burned, people. Oh, what the hell happened here? Oh, the sun got to them. The flare hit them just at the wrong time. So, for whatever reason, we seem to be in a relatively stable environment from that particular disaster's perspective. But I haven't seen a timeline on those particular things, and I'm not sure how accurate it could be anyway because of the limited length of time we've been studying it. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Well, we've only just recently put a satellite in orbit, I think, around the sun.
Helios or whatever.
Something. Yeah, whatever. So that'll be interesting. So but anyway, I think that I would be more worried about that kind of stuff or war. Or something.
Yeah, well, that's the biggest killer of all of us is pestilence and then war.
Yeah, and of course the microbes evolve rather rapidly, for a new disease. They knew Ebola and everything. All right, let me move on.
Go ahead.
Crisis begins. Cuba begins widespread rationing due to shortages.
Cuba.
Yep, in Cuba. Thank you. Oh God.
Yes.
Is that Che?
Yeah.
Oh my God, they have a thing of Che?
Well, I don't know if they still have it.
Oh, okay, right.
Maybe.
All right. Last month, the Trump administration imposed new sanctions on Cuba and Venezuela. I thought we'd already pretty well did. I don't know how many more sanctions you do. Attempting to tighten the vice on Havana to end its support for Venezuelan president. As a result, Cuba has launched widespread rationing of staple foods and hygiene products due to shortages triggered by the U.S. trade embargoes, it says. After a month of shortages, Cuban authorities announced Friday they rationed sale of chicken, eggs, rice, beans, soap, and other essential items, which of course, pollo con rizo or whatever. What's
arroz con pollo?
Yeah, right. So notice that's on the staple food is
hitting them in the
boy they are
in the bread basket.
And of course, what they've done is the minister of whoever he is of rationing has said they're doing this rationing of essential items. Quote, to avoid, actually, this is the English translation, so to avoid hoarding and ensure greater access.
I was just going to say, I guarantee you, he's not called the Minister of Rationing, he's called the Minister of Fair Rationing.
Oh, right.
The Minister of Equitable Rationing, or some type of
that's right.
benevolent...
that's right, the Minister of Fairness.
That's the Fairness and Rationing.
Commerce Minister Betsy Diaz told the Cuban news agency that rationing would be used to deal with shortages of staple foods. Okay, so you've got shortages, and now you're going to ration them. And so Diaz condemned the Trump administration, of course, for triggering the latest crisis. Our mission is to fracture all the measures the U.S. government imposes, and today we are setting priorities, said Diaz. Cuba imports approximately 2/3 of its food, and small shortages have been common throughout the years, which is stunning to me because Cuba, is a pretty good-sized country. They can have agriculture out the bazongo. They could be self-supporting easily, it seems to me.
Well, maybe they're just well entrenched in trade, or were at some point.
I don't know. In recent weeks, many products have been missing for the store shelves for days, and long lines have sprung up, with many waiting for scarce products.
Really? With rationing?
Yeah, right. Hard to believe, right. Like chicken and beans, which, of course, if there was going to be a revolt, it would be over the chicken and rice or something, or chicken and beans.
Yeah,
because that's like water down there.
Taking it off the table, man.
Yeah, right.
That's like wine in France or something.
Yeah, right.
What? You tax my wine?
Yeah. So it's interesting that the rationing is to ensure greater access. Kind of like, I don't know what they did. Here when they had, this whole thing, it was like our lines when we had with the oil embargo, and then it turned out you could only go if your license plate ended odd or even or something like that. And, just on, and just, and of course, the day they lifted up.
What is our involvement down there? Why are we putting pressure on Cuba?
Because they're in cahoots with Venezuela.
So we're just trying to beat up on their friend or something?
Yep. I mean, as if they're already not abysmally poor driving 1950s cars.
Right. Yeah, you got one right there next to you.
Huh?
Yeah, right there next to you. You got a little.
Oh yeah, I see that. Ship. Yeah. I was just gonna do this. I'm right here. Yeah, I'm trying to do this. There it is. Whatever. Okay, good. So apprehensions up 42% on the northern border.
Oh right.
We got Canadians and other people coming in from the Great White North. As Mexicans and Central Americans try to enter from Canada.
Are you sure they just didn't get the springtime rush there? Is that...
No. What it is this was the headline, of course. So it says way more than the has increased in coming into Detroit in that area. Why anybody would want to go into Detroit is beyond me. But 42% rise between 2017 and 2018, and of course what you find is when you read the numbers here, border protection data shows a total
from
of
100 to 142.
Right, exactly. 4,300 as opposed to 100,000 on the southern border. So it's not exactly anything to
flood
coming across. But of course the question is, when they were talking about the people that they talk about the numbers of people, Romania, India, a couple of Canadians, El Salvador, a dozen more came from Brazil, China, Colombia, Cuba, and the Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Haiti, Jamaica, blah, 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 whatever. Of course, the question immediately arises, how'd they get to Canada? I mean, what, did they take a plane or what? I mean, I don't know.
Maybe so, probably, maybe, I don't know. Maybe
but then why would you have to sneak across the border?
Yeah, you go all the way around there.
I don't know. So, anyway, it's again, as I say, they're getting 1,000 illegal immigrants per day in some sectors in our southern border. So this is hardly a cause for concern, but I thought the headline, when you see apprehensions up 42%, you're thinking, okay, so they went from 100 to 142. Okay, in the sad news category, really sad. Grumpy Cat is dead.
Oh, yeah.
Grumpy Cat is dead, died at age 7.
Yeah.
Now this is the internet's most famous feline passes away from an infection at age 7 after amassing a $100 million fortune for the owner, who once was a struggling waitress.
Yeah.
I mean, this is in 2012. She put it on YouTube or on the thing, and immediately all the memes came up. 17 million hits or something like that.
Yeah.
Grumpy Cat has been on. Apparently, Grumpy Cat was because of a birth defect.
Yeah.
Had a horrible overbite and something else, but it just had this perpetual scowl. And the world's crankiest cat with a permanent scowl has inspired countless memes, a best-selling series of books, and a movie. Grumpy Cat, owned by so-and-so of Morristown, Arizona, shot to fame in 2012 with a video that got 15 million views and earned more than Hollywood stars Nicole Kidman, Cameron Diaz, and Matthew McConaughey during her time in the spotlight. Yeah, there's Grumpy Cat, right.
When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. It's been dead for 1,000,000 years. Your dreams will only lead to tears.
That's Grumpy Cat. But I just, it's just, even amassing a $100 million fortune was not enough to put a smile on the face of blah, blah. Who was born with dwarfism and an underbite, giving her a disgruntled expression. But like you say, this particular picture that you see here is with different phrases has done like a jillion times. But the cat appeared like on not Johnny Carson, but Letterman or something, and I mean all over the place.
Sure. $100 million, man.
$100 million. I mean, how do you monetize that? I mean, once you have a 17 million hits on your Facebook page or whatever you have up there,
that's how you monetize.
I guess she must have done a pretty good job, So the agent is pissed. No, I guess there's some residuals from that.
I mean, I'm sure there's contractual obligations all the way around.
Yeah. Okay, now, and once again, another couple of days have gone by, and guess who has announced a new plan?
My favorite, Elizabeth Warren.
Elizabeth Warren, yes. She is now unveiled.
She's got a plan for that.
She has a plan to stop corruption at the Pentagon.
I'm going to eliminate corruption and waste.
That's it. And fraud.
That's right.
I
never heard anybody say that before.
No, not.
Nobody has ever said that's going to fix
She's one of her. She's up to like 6 or 7 platforms, I guess.
Yeah.
Another one. Senator Elizabeth Warren released a 4-point plan on Thursday to combat what she described as, quote, an intense coziness between giant defense corporations and our Department of Defense, unquote. Warren, who is running for president, announced the proposal in a blog post. Said it would shut the revolving door between federal government and military.
Doesn't she seem like your feckless aunt at like watching over you, like babysitting or something?
Yeah.
Like who can't? Now you kids do not go back in there. And then 2 minutes later you've climbed in the window or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Defense contractor influence is a big part of how we ended up with a Pentagon budget that will cost more this year than Ronald Reagan spent at the height of the Cold War. So I don't know what I didn't pull down her 4-point plan, but you've taken on somebody pretty big, Liz.
Of the Pentagon?
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. And the defense contractors in all 50 states, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta think that, what's interesting is the Defense Department budget is part of the discretionary portion of the budget. Actually, technically, you could cut it out. But it wouldn't do much good since literally 2/3 of the budget, of the entire budget, is taken up with Social Security and Medicare.
Well, I would say it would do us much good.
Well, only because
it wouldn't solve all the problems, but it would do us much good. I think if we were to cut our defense budget in half.
Yeah, you could certainly do that.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any.
Bring a lot of people overseas home. That kind of,
close some bases. How about?
That's what I mean.
I was looking at a little chart there, and there was this meme that said, "How dare Iran move its country close to our bases?"
yeah. Near our aircraft carrier.
Near our aircraft carrier, but our bases. There's bases all around here too. So how dare they? Mm-hmm. And so they're impinging on our bases. Okay, whatever. Mm-hmm. So anyway, this is that kind of stuff. It's interesting, and it's interesting because they do come up very often. The Defense Department will come up with some bases they want to close, and yet sometimes they can't do it. The congressman whose district it's in says, no, don't want to do that. Mm. So now another presidential guy, Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah,
Buttigieg has released his official position on 27 topics.
27 topics, yep.
The new information, which comes about 6 weeks before the Democratic first presidential debates, which I think is right at the end of June.
Yeah,
so
June 26th
six weeks,
or 23rd.
Yeah, June 26th, yeah. Provides for some details. He's for, of course, the $15 minimum wage. He wants to help the middle class at disadvantaged pay for college. He wants the federal government to get involved in what has been a state issue, paying teachers, especially in diverse districts. And so he basically, this is why we believe, or why you should believe in Pete's bold vision for our future. As our campaign releases further policy ideas and initiatives.
Right before you said bold, I was just about to say, this plan's the same as everybody else's.
It's bold plan.
It's bold.
That's right.
No, I looked through at least the topics of all 27 topics and the initial paragraphs, and I didn't see anything, like I said, different from any of the other candidates.
But of course, here's the thing: is this tells you right off the bat that the federal government is involved in at least 27 different things.
Well, there's a lot of overlap,
I know.
and there's a lot of he's got it categorized in this weird way. Like he separates everything into 3 major categories of freedom, democracy, security.
Okay.
And then he divides each of those up into like 9 different things, and where it falls in there, I couldn't really discern a pattern because I'm creating the Jimmy Doan issues page.
Okay.
And I have our issues arranged according to what I think is important.
Well, they have.
Even though we're using your name.
Right, that's fine. That's fine. I don't mind. I'll take credit for that as long as it's not.
Yeah, that's right.
It's interesting here locally. Mm-hmm. There's a big new thing. I think if they didn't vote on it yesterday or the day before, they're going to have the final vote on the straws, plastic straws here in town.
Oh my God!
This is the big deal, and there's all kinds of discussion back and forth. The city thing. They're going to ban the plastic straw. They talked about it before and everything.
Right. Well,
and of course, all the comments are saying, "What about the roads, for God's sakes?"
Well, yeah. But the moratorium on plastic straw bans in the state of Florida was signed by the governor.
Right, okay.
So we have now a 5-year moratorium on municipalities banning plastic straws.
Really?
The bags can still go.
Okay.
So, unfortunately, as I try to point out, the United States contributes 1% of the plastic, and of course all ours is collected by the municipality, so...
it's in a landfill somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know the guy whose landfill it's in.
Yeah, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know it's there.
So when the aliens show up a million years from now and they dig through the stuff, they'll say,
yeah,
what are these?
Well, what you do is you bring kids out there for field trips in class. Look what the humans used to...
Oh, right.
And you just dig through
the child aliens, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. All right. This I thought was kind of fascinating. Students taking the SAT, which I remember, will now get a secret adversity score.
Secret to who?
Secret to the kids, I guess. I don't know. Somehow they're going to figure out if the kid is disadvantaged, and they're going to up the score.
And the SAT is qualified to do this because...
It's a nonprofit organization. I don't know.
Right. Well, I mean, so their adversity score is going to take into account their standard of living, their whether or not they're single parent, family, whether crime in the neighborhood.
Right. Yeah. All that. Right. So, in an effort to ensure colleges are aware of those background factors.
Do you think race may be a factor?
Ooh, boy, you don't want to say that. Of course, now they got the new LGBTQ law.
Well, that's the question: is does that make them a little bit more equal than the rest of us in the sense that, does it trigger something like this and bump up their adversity score?
Yeah.
So that all of a sudden, you got a 1400,
and now you got a 1500. That's right. Well, instead of an 800 on your math test. What you do is you got a 600 on your math test, but we bumped it up to 800.
That's it.
So you're now a merit scholar or whatever it is. Yeah, yeah. No, it's interesting.
Is that with their? Never mind. I can't. Go ahead.
So an adversity score, a bold move that has the potential to level the education playing field for America's youth. Those raised in upper income families often score higher than those from lower income families, for example.
It's going to level the playing field.
Yeah, level the playing field. And of course, you wonder, you've got, I scored a total of 1,600 on my SATs, did two 800, or two 800, two 800s, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm taking home ec or something, I'm flunking. Or whatever. I mean,
right in college. You mean
in college? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, you can sit there and brag about you. I mean, when I was getting ready to go into college, SAT that's the only thing you had to have. I mean, you could be flunking out of school if you had a high enough SAT. They'd take you in.
Yeah. Well, they knew you could read and write and do math.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, they got a foundation there.
Of course, he's lazy as crap, but because he didn't get.
All he took
should have had
was
straight A's
test.
in school. Yeah, right. Well, it was interesting because when I went to a preparatory school, and they prepped you by giving you almost unlimited SAT tests.
Preparatory, that means no girls, right?
That's what's been no girls in my school. I can tell you that. So, but they prepared you for college by giving you'd taken already 30 SATs by the time you take the real one. So you breeze. There was a technique which I learned in taking SATs, and I tried to teach it to some other people. If what is it? The longest answer. If there's one longer answer than all the others, that's probably it.
Right.
When in doubt, choose D.
Right.
And of course, a lot of it they had correction factors, and you had to be aware of that. If you could eliminate. The correction factor was like 1 in 4 or something like that. Well, if you could get it down between 2, it paid you to guess.
Right.
Or even 3, it paid you to guess. And
the bar was the opposite of that. They would avoid the tricks. Like they would have A, B, C, and D. A, B, and C would be big long paragraphs, and
that was
D
the other
would be the answer no. A, B, and C were yes and because blah 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 blah, and then normally you could just cross out the no on the SAT, but on the LSAT.
Well, no, actually that's not true. There's two things. As I say, if you had 3 long answers and 1 short, you took the short. 3 shorts and a long, you took the long. But as we said before, one of the major rules I remember was all is a detergent, not an answer.
Right.
So. And for those of you who don't know, all was I don't even know if it still exists.
Right.
In competition with Tide.
Go ahead.
Okay. The next thing I've got.
Oh shoot! I had something else on that topic. The test, thing, and SAT.
Dead air. You don't remember. Now I've got one thing before we get to Game of Thrones, which I know you want to probably chime in.
What?
Yeah. Police asked the McDonald's to stop selling milkshakes during the Farage rally. Farage is the big Brexit guy.
Oh God, they're worried he's going to get pelted?
Yes. I mean, no, that's exactly right. Apparently, it has become de rigueur to get you a milkshake when you have the far right people like Tommy, what's his face?
Right.
Tommy Robinson.
Oh yeah, I saw they hit they hit Sargon of Akkad with the milkshake.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's the new thing. You know, it used to be lettuce and tomatoes and eggs.
Right.
You would pelt the speakers or
But now it's milkshakes.
Now it's milkshakes is a big deal.
Well, that's better than chlorofluoric acid.
Yeah, no, that's true. But still, what's interesting to me, what I think is kind of interesting, is that if the McDonald's that was like 100, 200 feet away, stopped selling. Just put a thing. Today we are not going to sell milkshakes today. You know, and that's all. And so they just banned them completely.
That's hilarious.
Well, it was double hilarious because what I would have done is I would have had half price milks, 2 for the price of 1. I mean, anything I would have sold out, or maybe I would have raised the price. That's what I would have done. I'd have raised the price. And you know, what you do is you add on a what do you call it, a throwing fee, or
comes in a special round.
Special. It comes in a special container. Yeah, I mean, that's what I would have done for sure.
For an extra 50 cents, you can get it in a balloon.
No, that's right. And so I thought it was hilarious. The first thing, you know, you stop selling one of your staples. And this would have been the perfect time to jack up the price 50%.
I'm with you, man.
I mean, how much damage can a milkshake do? I mean, seriously, if Farage or Tommy Roberts or any of these people know about this, I mean, you go in a raincoat or something. I mean, you just or a what do you call a poncho? Mm-hmm. You give your speech in a poncho. So bring them on. You know. So, okay. So the last thing I've got here is more than 830,000. Game of Thrones fans sign a petition begging HBO to remake season 8.
Yeah.
Now
and I was one of them.
And you were one of them.
I totally was.
I
totally was one of them.
Let's see, I got to get up here.
Yeah, I couldn't get these too good here.
No. Hi there, folks. I'm now.
Now see, both these guys are dead.
Oh, is that right?
Okay, they were main characters. Your guy was supposed to be. He's the Night King. There, he was supposed to be he was supposed to be the guy that ended the whole series.
Yeah.
And they killed him off in episode 3 out of 6. Just insanity.
Well, so, David Weinhoff and D.B. Weiss have proven themselves to be woefully incompetent writers.
They have.
When they have no source material, because they were, the book hadn't been written yet. Mm-hmm. So they said they had the petition says remake Game of Thrones season 8 with competent writers. And another wag says, I don't want these two anywhere near Star Wars.
Seriously.
They're
teed up for that.
And Weiss and Benioff will write and produce the next Star Wars movie coming in 2022. And this guy's saying no.
There's a guy on YouTube named, I think it's PSA Sitch, S-I-T-C-H. I'll have to check. Dang it. This guy is so good, and what he does is he goes through the Game of Thrones thing and he rewrites it, and what he does is he does it a couple different ways. He makes he makes small changes at first, and he's like, look, if you just done this one little thing differently, it all makes sense.
Right.
Then. For example, and I complained about this last time. I complained about the fact that the odds in the story changed just dramatically in ways that you wouldn't expect. For example, in the last episode, they're flying the dragons down towards the battle, and just all of a sudden, some big giant catapult bolts or ballista bolts hit the dragon, kill the dragon, knock him out of the sky. Gigantic weapon lost on one of the sides. All of a sudden, the entire game changes, and it all happened in a split second. Okay. The opposite that happened this time. This time, the one dragon that was left came down and wiped out the entire fleet of ships which were armed with these ballistas, which so easily shot down the other dragon in the last episode. Mm-hmm. And you're going like, how the heck is this dragon avoiding all the arrows that the other dragon got hit with the first one? Mm-hmm. It didn't make sense. If you're going to make these things super accurate and dragon slaying, then you got to keep doing that. You just can't change the expectation of the weapon like that. And they did it twice, and this guy, PSA, whatever his name is, said, man, look, all they had to do was have the entire attack happen at night. Done.
Yeah, okay.
He comes down, boom, they don't hear nothing. They don't know anything what's going on. They're like sitting there in their beds, all of a sudden, kaboom! Ships start blowing up. Then there's smoke everywhere. Now you got a dragon flying around in black smoke at night. What are you shooting at?
Yeah.
Okay. Now it all makes sense.
Okay.
And so this guy did several of these changes for each of the major plot points and did a fantastic job of rewriting it, and just proves that you need a guy like this on the script writing to keep everything together. Now, and they sacrificed all their characters for shock value. What they would do is they would take a good person and then just all of a sudden turn them evil, and an evil person and just turn them good. And like, oh, okay, oh, well, yeah, that sort of makes that scene, dramatic, but you can't understand why that's happening, Or they have battles for no reason. You have the biggest battle they've been setting up for like 5 episodes, or even more. 5 seasons, I'm sorry, 5 seasons, is this battle between the Queen's big protector knight and the other guy's, his brother, who they were in a battle early on in life, whatever. In the end, they end up fighting in a way that is totally inconsequential. They're just fighting each other to the death, like the guys on Star Trek that with the half split.
Oh, right.
When they get beamed down to the thing. Only if you had cut to the scene after they had beamed down on the planet and watched them fight for a while, that's what they did on the Game of Thrones. You're like, they're both going to die. What difference does it make? Right. And they're not fighting for anything except against one another. It was just like a battle of two guys. No. So anyway, D&D blown it. I can't believe I can't find this guy's name. It's killing me. I want to say Stitch, but of course you know why I want to say that.
Yeah.
So I think it's it is. It's Sitch. PSA Sitch, and he's excellent with his animation of his videos as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He puts little things in them, and he does the voices and such, and does a really excellent job. So anyway,
too much time on his hands.
Oh yeah, totally. But this guy is. Oh yeah, no. He and it looks that way too from his videos. It looks like he's been picking different things. You can go back through. He does a lot of political stuff as well.
Oh yeah.
So I was watching one of the Boy Scouts right before we started the podcast, and just interesting portrayal of everything. So anyway. This podcast brought to you by PSA Sitch.
Right, that's right. Okay, so they said they're panic-stricken about the Star Wars. It says, but the fan gripes certainly intensified in a big way after the most recent episode titled "The Bells." Mm-hmm. It depicted among other unexpected and divisive plot choices. Somebody Daenerys
Targaryen.
Yeah, right. Near complete transformation into the Mad Queen, who uses the remaining dragon to scorch King's Landing and kill countless innocent civilians.
Right.
Even after the ringing of the bells that were supposed to signal a capitulation.
Right.
So.
And they could have done it so easily a different way. They just had her go freaking crazy. And they could have had her not hear the bells. They could have had somebody break the bells. They could have had a fight over trying to ring the bells. No, they just had her kill everybody. And even though for 5 seasons, I'm sorry. I think the entire time she's been set up as the savior to the realm.
Okay.
And then in the second to the last episode, she just loses her shit and kills everybody that in the area. And they did it was like they did it so that they could show the dragon burning down the city. And
well, the question is, of course, there's certainly these scripts were submitted to somebody.
Well, that's what they're saying is these are the guys.
Oh, okay.
D&D are the guys who had final script approval.
Oh, okay.
They're the ones. What happened was this, as I mentioned before, George R.R. Martin wrote the whole series, but he didn't finish it.
Right.
They got ahead of him at the end and took some liberties. And
you call that liberties?
Man, well, they have destroyed it, and everybody is now saying, "Look, please, Jesus, fix this," or R.R. Martin, fix this thing.
830,000.
Yeah, and it's just a shame. Sitch points out also that the people that worked on this thing, you can go and watch the behind the scenes for this episode. It's incredible.
Yeah.
The structures that they built as the set so that people could run down, and all the different people with the special effects and everything, and the actors, and I mean the actors, the cinematography. There are so many things about this which are just as good as you can get in
genius
terms of
level.
Seriously, genius level. There are a dozen geniuses working on this freaking thing, and these two idiots nosedived it in the freaking last. It was just like, somebody gave them the wheel and they crashed the entire freaking thing, and it's just a shame. So that's where we're at. Anyway, but I don't care.
No. Well, I haven't even watched the first one yet, so I've got other things.
I wasn't that invested, so I know.
I'm totally not invested at all. I'm done anyway with what I've got. You got anything?
Okay, well, let me see. I may have a couple of things. I think
I got supposedly 7 minutes. To go.
I got a thing or two. Let's see. School lunch lady fired for giving out a free lunch to a kid. Did you see?
Really? No.
Yeah. Kid came up, didn't have the 85 cents or whatever it is. Lunch lady gave the kid food anyway.
Yeah.
And of course she's an internet hero because she saved the child from imminent starvation. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, was it a government-run school?
The school was government run.
Okay, because normally you can't fire those people. Like maybe you can fire the kitchen people.
Well, exactly. The kitchen is a contractor.
Yes. Okay. And so if that means the head of the contractor guy must have fired her.
Right.
For giving away free food.
Right.
Okay, yeah, you can't do that.
Right.
Right.
You can't do that.
That's right. You can't do that.
I mean, look, if she was so benevolent, why didn't she whip out the 85 cents?
Exactly. Yeah. No, exactly right. I mean,
anybody who says that this woman did the right thing needs to ask themselves why she didn't pay for it herself.
Yeah. Well, that's right. Or what she
You can't spend somebody else's money, the contractor's money.
Right. No, you can't do that. But also, of course, what I would have done was I would have loaned him the money.
Right, exactly.
That's what I would have done.
Right.
Here, this is a loan.
Right.
You're going to have to pay me back.
That's right. And the parent did end up paying.
There we have it. I'm telling you.
Done and done.
No.
And then it wouldn't have been a problem.
Yeah.
But she's going to make $100,000 off of her GoFundMe page anyway. So
okay, well, then there you have it. Okay.
All right. Australia turns right in some way. There was apparently some elections over there, and we'll have to, maybe we could hear from some of our Aussie friends. That can tell us what's going on. But apparently the polls showed that the left was going to win, and they didn't. So there's a question, I guess, as to looming debt. And of course, they've had free healthcare over there for a while. They've been trumpeting.
Right. Trumpeting.
Yeah.
That's right.
And apparently, it's sort of economics over climate change and education in terms of the issues.
Huh. I know
it's the economy, as you like to say.
Right. Well, it is kind of interesting because you know that Stefan Molyneux went down there with this other girl, right wing type girl. I forget what her name is. Laura something.
Southern.
Yeah, I think it was Laura Southern.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and they
got pelted with tomatoes and stuff.
No, they didn't get pelted, but basically the authorities made it really difficult for them to hold their things. They had been booked into places. Well, then they went over to New Zealand and couldn't do anything. The New Zealand authorities said you're totally not welcome here.
Right.
And so they couldn't have anything in New Zealand. But they did some interviews with some people anyway that they filmed themselves. And of course it was interesting to me then. Like you say, this was social whatever it is gone amok, and the fact now that they have some right wingers coming and say, wait a minute, maybe we've gone too far.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, I think Australia's economy is again about the size of Florida's. I think it's a 1.5 trillion.
Okay.
Somewhere around there, and it's interesting to me to see. I mean, they're running a social experiment, obviously, in some ways with their healthcare, and so we get to see what the result is over time.
Of course, again, unfortunately, the cognitive dissident people that are in our government here don't see that. They will always look at that and say, well, see, they didn't do it right, and we're going to do it the right way. That's number one. And no,
you're right.
They look at Venezuela and they say, no, well, see, of course, but it was Trump that caused that, and or something.
You sound cynical again.
I am totally cynical. You're right about that.
Let's see. All right, Biden on top. How about that?
Saw that.
Yeah.
I mean, how this guy, he is like...
Because he's the VP, he's relatively center in terms of his leftist policies, right? I mean, seriously, of all of them. if he stays just sort of where people perceive him to be, I think he's the biggest threat, other than Michelle O, to the Republicans.
Michelle O.
She's not going to do anything.
No,
she's not going to run or do anything like that. But she would win like that. I think she could run from her bathtub and she would win.
Really?
Yeah. But
For her bathtub. Okay, well, but of course, then Joe's got to come up against Trump at some point.
well, I think Joe's not going to make it that far because I think they're going to shred him in the primaries.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think he can win. I don't think he's close enough to the center of the Democratic Party to win the nomination. I think he's close enough to the center of the country to win the election. But
yeah, well, as we said before, the only thing that's going to stop Trump is if the economy crashes.
Right.
In any time before the election. So it's got about another 12 to 15 months for the economy to crash.
Right, well, but see, I think he's insulated from that at this point.
Really?
Yes, because even if there was a giant crash tomorrow, okay, tomorrow the bottom just drops out of the market 10,000 points off of the whole thing, okay? Everything down 30-40%. What's going to happen?
What's going to happen? You got me.
Oh, you know what would happen.
People running in the street with their hair on
Well,
fire?
and then what? They would have that stupid meeting in Washington again with all the bankers in the room.
Yeah, I don't know.
And they would say, let's take interest rates negative.
Really?
Yes, you know it. You know, because that's the only thing they can think of to do. And they'd play that scene from Wall Street where Julie goes, if you don't do it,
Yeah.
there it goes. Everything disappears. So they would go all in on a solution again, thinking that they could do it again. Right.
I think that, well, of course, it's pretty obvious to me at any rate that that's no fix.
Well, but the question is it obvious to our creditors? The question is, would they buy it? Would anybody buy it?
Well, think about it. When they go, if interest rates go negative, I mean, can you imagine you buy a government bond that pays you -1%? I mean, so you give them $1,000, and when it's all up, you get $900 back. I mean, that's hardly what you call an investment.
I'm with you, but I just.
I mean, and you're gonna sell this to the Japanese and the Chinese and
they've already got $1 trillion worth of negative bonds over there.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I could almost see it in Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
I think that because the franc, if you bought 100,000 francs and they're worth X dollars, they could easily be worth more than that, even if you're paying to own them.
Right.
Like storage fee or something.
Look, I think simultaneously they would turn the printers on like nobody's business, and I think we would start to see a real inflation. But
we've seen it before in very temporary.
Right.
But of course that was when what's his name was there, the big tall guy, Volcker, and and he basically put the clamps on everything, and interest rates went through the ceiling for about 6 months.
Yeah, I don't think Trump would do that.
I don't think so. Well, of course, he actually, interestingly enough, technically the Fed is independent.
Right, but you see, what I think would happen is I think that he would buy into the Obama fix, that is, loose money is the solution. Mm-hmm. And if the Fed didn't do anything within a couple of months, I think he'd fire everybody and appoint new people who he was pretty sure would do that stuff.
Well, of course, the Treasury can always print its own money.
Right, and I think they would start going bananas.
Yeah, they could be. All right, well.
Just a guess.
Yeah.
I'm always wrong, so.
Okay.
Chelsea Manning back in jail.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was because she what?
Still failing to testify to the grand jury.
Oh, okay.
And now they're going to start fining her $500 a day after 30 days and $1,000 a day after 60 days.
For what? Contempt?
Yeah. So.
Can you be fined for that? I mean,
apparently
you're
so.
in jail.
I know. And so yeah. And she could stay there for a year and a half. So she could end up owing.
Come and get it.
$500,000 plus.
Yeah, and then what?
Well, and then it becomes a lien of record, and she has no credit, and they just declare bankruptcy. I don't know if it's dissolvable in bankruptcy or not. It depends on how it's notated. So it's just interesting that they're still putting pressure there. Trump's going to release 1,000 families a month into South Florida.
I saw that.
Yeah.
And what does our DeSantis have to say about this? Our governor? Has he said anything at all?
No mas? No, I don't know what. No, I think he said whatever. Bring them on. 1,000. I mean, we absorbed more than that. No problem.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah,
in the past.
Yeah, well, they could put them down in Miami.
Right, and I think they're going to go in 2 different areas down there, and basically very population dense areas, and there should be people around who speak their language and can help them integrate and from wherever they're from, and so I'm not worried about these folks, man. They're going to be fine.
Okay.
My immigration solution is give them an eighth of an acre or 16th of an acre somewhere in the western United States, and
right.
and give them to waive benefits for 5 years and then come on in.
Okay.
And all right. Real quick, this poor bartender named Lindsay Glass was arrested because somebody she served went out and committed a murder.
Okay.
And the only reason that they ever tried to arrest her is because she tried to do the right thing and warn her manager that she thought the guy was a little bit off after he said something to her like, I'm gonna go kill some people now or something like that. And so they charged her, the bartender.
Where was this?
Man, I want to say Texas, but I'm not sure.
Well, they've had a law quite a bit now, where if you don't cut somebody off when they look like they're drunk.
Right. That's if they injure themselves after they leave the bar, or someone else, like in a DUI or
right.
something. Right.
Say they do a DUI and kill somebody.
Right. You're supposed to know. The standard is, should you reasonably have known that they are beyond the capacity to order or not? They can't. They're not in control of their faculties anymore.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, I was a bartender for a long time, and yeah, that's a thing. But still.
But this one. So she's been arrested?
Yeah.
For what?
Well, exactly, and I guess it's the same
negligent
theory.
Manslaughter.
Exactly.
Really?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and Tiger Woods is being sued because one of his bartenders served somebody who go out and got in an accident.
I saw that. that.
And they're suing Tiger like he has anything. Not the bartender.
Right.
That's another level. That's civil. But this is criminal that they charges Lindsay Glass with. Like she had anything to do. Like she could have possibly foreseen the guy going out and killing somebody.
And what was she going to do anyway?
Well, I mean,
she told the manager.
Well, exactly.
And what's the manager going to do? What are you going to do? You can't lock him in the cloakroom.
Right.
I mean,
no, and you can't unserve him the drinks that you already served him at that point.
And could you call the cops?
No, I mean, there's no crime or anything.
There's no crime at that point.
Right.
So I mean, what could she have done? I don't get.
It's just we're getting into this weird phase of criminal defense where they're trying to attach liability to people further up the chain who have no intention of committing any crime.
Right.
Just to have somebody to blame. Just because well, shoot, this bartender, she was involved. It's like, man, it's crazy. All right, and I guess we won't talk about abortion today.
No.
Okay. All right, that's all I got then. That is it. So, thank you everybody for joining us. We really appreciate it. Let's see. Where is everybody? Oh, I lost you. Oh, here you are. Gene, Bill, Jeffrey, Buddy, appreciate it. Thanks everybody. Hope you guys had a little fun. We certainly did. This show, these tracks are brought to you by Kevin McLeod. We really appreciate it, Kevin. If I ever meet you, I'd be happy to shake your hand and buy you a beer. Also, this week's sponsor, Black and Blue Lives. This is my book about criminal defense, and the middle section is all about how to deal with the police. And I only bring this up because one of my friends in the neighborhood has now called the police to set up a speed trap on one of our local roads.
Yes, oh my
And
God.
I guarantee you they're going to catch us in our own speed trap here.
Right, yeah.
So one of the rules in the book is never call the police because they're going to arrest somebody, and if there's nobody else around, then there's a good chance it's going to be you. So pick up the book. It's like $1, I think, at Amazon, maybe a couple more. But anyway.
Worth the price, that's for sure. If it saves you all that trouble, you know, because in these days a DUI or a stop, as you know, some of them result in deaths.
Oh, and then they're charging you with murder.
Right.
You know, they transfer your intent to drive the car into your intent to murder somebody,
Yeah.
as if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, no.
And
it's all about the money.
well, I don't know.
It's your
It's
money.
some weird accountability issue, but also Jack Rhodes was a crime victim this week.
Yes.
He was attacked by Francisco and his evil brother Francisco. I'm not even making that up.
Really?
Yeah. So, and some of the things in this book could have helped Jack in his situation. Fortunately, he was well versed in it.
Yeah.
So he did well in his encounter with the police. So pick up a copy, Black and Blue Lives, by Curtis Elmore, JD, on Amazon. So I'm Counselor Curtis. This is the Jimmy Doan Show. We'll be back on Wednesday at 4 o'clock for your listening pleasure. See ya.
Tell your friends.